Okay. Hi, Larry. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate
Of
it, Kim.
course. I am head of growth at Presidio, and I'm sitting down with Larry McAlister, who is a international bestseller. He just released a book called The Power of Transformation, and we will supply links to all this and share so everyone can get a copy of it. But we're sitting down to talk about sort of embracing innovation in HR, looking at how far HR tech has come, where it was, where it's at, and sort of where we see it in the future. And a big component of that is AI and integrating AI into the HR tech stack, which I know can seem overwhelming and sometimes intimidating, but really the goal of this conversation is to break it down a little bit and sort of let people know that it's not that scary and it's probably a lot easier than assumed. And it doesn't have to be just this massive change to the HR tech stack and HR roles. It's sort of a complement to what everyone's already doing. And so we'll get started. I wanted to share a quote with everyone that came from one of the co-founders of Presidio, the head, and he's sort of our AI expert. He's incredible, and he has sort of the way he views Gen AI and how it can transform the HR department is this comes from him directly. He said, "Envision an HR department transformed by generative AI. Automated personalized learning, programs customized for each employee's unique career path, hyper-realistic job simulations for assessing candidates, instant and inclusive job descriptions, immediate access to automated people analytics, and the ability to predict and mitigate potential employee resignations." So that's a lot of things that we're sort of saying Gen AI can do. So I just wanted to lead in with that to set the landscape of what we're going to be talking about a little bit. So I'm going to kick off the conversation, but first, Larry, why don't you, if you want to just give a little intro to yourself. You are more than just an author. You have been in the space for a long time. You're a thought leader. So if you want to give a little intro, and then we will start our discussion.
Sure. Hi, I'm Larry McAlister. I was a three-time CHRO. And for the last 10 years, I was running transformation of tech talent and people strategies for two Fortune 500 companies. Then about a year ago, I left to publish the book, The Power to Transform, and also talk to as many generative AI companies selling into the HR departments to get a lay of the land and see where the future is. And my mind is just blown. I mean, we are in the space now where generative AI is going to have a bigger impact on society than anything we've ever known since like fire. And so the time is to embrace and understand and find out what's going on in the world. I think we've really come to the conclusion that the big HRMs can't innovate as fast as all these smaller companies. So to wait for HRM to get to this point is going to be a long wait. So understand what's in the world and figure out how it helps you. And we'll get into that.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. I would say a great place to start. We're at the beginning of 2024. So we're looking at innovation, how to stay ahead, sort of the outlook of what HR departments should be considering when thinking about the year ahead and then even just years after that. So what's your thoughts, given what we just discussed about Gen AI and the impact it could potentially have on HR departments? Can you share some thoughts on how you feel the space is evolving? What possibilities are there with technology and then the recent increase in AI to simplify and automate and sort of maybe dispel a little bit of the fears people might have around AI?
Yeah. So, I always say, you just go with the basics of AI before we talk about the HR department.
Okay.
One of the hardest things to do in life is go from 0 to 1, like come up with a brand new idea or you have an idea, but you don't know how to get it on paper. At the core level, generative AI is your collaborator. It can help you get to 0 to 1 faster and with more details and speed up your life. Another thing I say is, the technology doesn't replace the human interaction. It gets you to the human interaction faster and with better data and more actionable data. So if you think about the employee experience or the HR experience, or talent acquisition, how can you write better job descriptions? How can you assess people better? How do you get to the human interaction where all the value is faster and have better matching? Or you want to just have a quick training deck. There's generative AI that you say, just build me a quick deck on this, and bam, you have 10 slides that you can now edit and tie into your business. And then you think about Presidio. You can ask Presidio who in my company is going to turn over, or how many employees do we just hire in Japan at your fingertips. So if you think about all the departments and all the points of employee experience, you can get better data faster to get to the human interaction more powerfully.
Yeah, I can relate because obviously I'm in a marketing role. And that was what, when I joined Presidio, one of the things that really interested me because I love ChatGPT and I use it all the time. And that their interface is essentially like ChatGPT, where you could just conversationally ask a question and then get a response. And I view AI, for me, I think it's the fear sometimes is it seems like this foreign technology, but it's really not. And it's if you know how to use it, there's so much potential of what you can get out of something. And it does not have to be this overwhelming, implementation or scary new tech to learn. It's quite simple. In fact, it's the mechanics behind it are not simple, but the actual output is pretty simple.
Yeah, and you don't have to be, a technological genius. You just
Right.
have to have a less fear of technology. But one thing I do want to say about if you're leading in HR and you're thinking about enhancing your HR tech stack, the idea is you don't just go buy a piece of technology and pray that it works.
Right.
You have to golden thread this around your talent strategy. What are we trying to accomplish as an HR team or as an organization or as an enterprise? What are the goals we're trying to accomplish? What problems are we trying to fix? Communicate to the organization. And what propels that strategy is technologies like this. Propels your strategy and makes it go faster and wider than it would before generative AI came into existence.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think too, I think with HR can sometimes feel like a siloed department. And the reality is that everything that happens within HR is impacting the overhead business goals and decisions. And
100%.
so having that connection from this, department and everything that happens within HR, which there's so much that happens within HR, but leading it up to the actual overall business goals is a
100%.
huge connection that needs to be made that sometimes just is overlooked a little bit.
Yeah. And like one example we did, we decided, okay, what problems are we trying to solve? And then we had an HR tech parade where we brought in 16 vendors.
Oh,
And
great.
we had like a managers in there, we had IT in there, we had HR in there. So it was a very cross-functional group. And then we knew what we were evaluating against. We knew what the goals were. And that's how we chose the first three HR tech vendors we brought in. So
That's
cross-functional
really
about the
cool.
business. And it was mind-blowing. It was like, who knew there was so much out here? Just to boil it down to 16
Yeah.
was amazing. And then the data you get, and this is where Presidio really comes in. For the first time, if you have these HR techs, the data that you get behind the scenes from them is the voice of the employee. And something like Presidio can integrate all of that and give you predictive and dashboards so you understand what your employees really want. And when you
Yeah.
bring that to the CEO staff and that to budget meetings, the
Yeah.
voice of the voice of the employee is super powerful. That data is super powerful to get you budget and to know what your roadmap's going to be.
Yeah, it's such a good point because the voice of the employee is it's sort of an emotionally attached voice, right? There's someone behind it that's saying, I'm experiencing this. But when you're able to sort of outline within actual data that says, these are data points. This isn't emotion based. This is just facts that you're pulling out of, your employees' experiences that speaks volumes and it's actionable. You can see trends and you can look at just charts and make decisions based on what you're seeing in data and understanding that it actually is impacting your employees.
I mean, most 100% agree. And most companies rely solely on like a pulse survey,
Hmm.
which is good and valuable. And
Yeah.
and there's AI in there now, so you don't have to dig
Right.
through all the data and everything. That's fine. But that's just one way to get the data.
Yeah.
If you have something like Presidio that's looking, it could look at what's going on in Salesforce, what's going on in your LMS,
Hmm.
tie that data together and say, this is what the people want.
Right.
That explodes the idea of what employee voice is because
Right.
you're not asking them specifically, you're evaluating how they're acting and what they're doing and what they want. And that's never before. I've been dreaming of that for 30 years. So to finally have it now is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, the main goal, right, is to have a positive impact on everyone that has to sort of live their day to day. We spend a lot of time at work, so
That's
if we
right.
can positively
Exactly.
impact that, and wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, so we've touched on this a little bit, but looking about again, just breaking down sort of sometimes what I hear is it's the fear of AI, or there's assumptions about AI that it's going to be a really heavy implementation. It's going to be really expensive. It's going to be internal adoption of any technology is difficult. So adding sort of an AI component to it may feel even more, add some more apprehension to it. So what I'd like to touch on a little bit is the idea that AI is not going to replace your job. It's going to assist you with your job. It's going to help you be more productive, do more with less, automate redundant simplistic tasks, and then give you the ability to free up space and work on stuff that's really valuable. So, for you, what's your thoughts on, what that might look like in HR? I know what it looks like for marketing because that's where I'm at, but what do you, when you look at sort of the overarching technology of Gen AI, even, Presidio or even outside of Presidio, how do you view this for a typical HR department and what their growth might look like?
Yeah. So prior to generative AI, everything was sort of an ask and answer. Hey, analytics team, run me a report that does this. And then you get it back and you're like, well, that's not exactly what I wanted and it doesn't look exactly how I want it.
Yeah.
Um, or all right, I'm sitting in front of my PowerPoint and I got to start putting together a communication deck. Or, we're recruiters are scanning through LinkedIn to try to find matches and try to reach out to them. Each one of those actions now with Presidio or a Eightfold for recruiting, you can get past all of that and have it in your hands in natural language.
Right.
So you're not waiting and running reports. You're actually interacting. This is the first time in history that the average human is actually collaborating with the machine.
Mhm.
And so that collaboration, the better you get at that collaboration and understand how these tools work, the better you are at your job, the better you can communicate to your team, the better human leader you can be. And I think HR has to take the lead in this.
Mhm.
HR has to think of themselves as technologists. We're living in the golden age of HR technology. There's a ton of investment. And as to implementation, it is 10 times easier to implement one of these small tools because they invented themselves, they founded themselves to be easy integrators to what you already have.
Mhm.
Right? They weren't these big old school HRMs that you have to have a big implementation team and it takes 6 months and $1 million. It's turning it on into your sort of ecosystem
Yeah.
and learning how to use it. So it's a new age.
So as this is a one-off question that I didn't prep you with, but
Oh,
as as a former CHRO, what would you view as some of the most valuable, say like top three things, whether it's, within the analytics sphere? I know you speak a lot about human-centric leadership, and so I'm sure, within every leader, there's, a team, there's technology behind them. But so coming from your perspective as a former CHRO, what do you think are some valuable sort of key tips people could sort of walk away with and say, this is how I could use this?
so when I first met Presidio and I met the head and Ken, it was before this had this great, user interface. It was them
Right.
sort of just working on it. But they told me a story about how they were working with a customer and they were evaluating just data on people taking training courses.
Mhm.
And people were taking, how to be a manager training course. And they didn't become a manager and they left. Just that one piece of data,
Yeah.
that integration of the LMS and your turnover data automatically to predict turnover, to ask Presidio who in my company is going to turn over and
Mhm.
why and what can I do about it. That is something that we've been guessing at poorly forever. So anything predictive, and I know a lot of people say, "Hey, just give me the dashboards, just give
Right.
me the data," which is fine. That's fine. You need to break people in, right? Let's get you
Yeah.
dashboards that are faster and more intuitive, and you can do it yourself. You have to go ask for a report from someone else. That in
Yeah.
itself is a leap forward. But
Yeah.
to get to predictive turnover, to get to predictive who could be the best salesperson, or why is this person the best salesperson? What do they do all day? Is data and action and insights that have never been available to us before. So just that in itself, basic data that we just didn't have access to in the past is organization changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. I think what I've noticed is that there sometimes is a pain point within an organization that they don't know can be solved with data or with analytics. So it's like maybe there's a department or a location that has high turnover or lower productivity, and then you can sort of look back and see it had to do with how they were onboarded, or what type, who trained them on onboarding, who showed up, how many one-on-ones they're having. So there's all these little components that I think we overlook because they're just our day-to-day activities when an employee joins an organization, but there's data from day one tracked that can affect.
So the human brain is conditioned to, if you can't get the data, you make up a story. Right? So we've been making up stories and talking away what the problems really are because we can't prove it.
Yeah.
We just can't prove it. Now you can prove it. Now you can replace your storytelling with actionable data and analytics at your fingertips. So it's just a different age for this. And we say analytics and data, and those are old words almost. Right. This is just natural language, asking questions and getting answers back in real time.
Yeah.
And imagine sitting with your boss or the CEO and they just have a question about something. You'd be like, okay, I'll get back to you in 3 days.
Yeah,
now you can say, I'll get it back to you right in this second that we're sitting here. And that's, the speed of data is as fast as it's ever been.
Yeah. And I mean, the less Excel spreadsheets we can have, the better. Because I know we all are pulling data. I think every department in an organization is using those sheets to pull data or track data. And even when I'm doing my own personal analytics for my role, there's fear of error, or did I miss a number? Did I calculate it incorrectly? So yeah, that is a huge.
And do I want to sit here and do this for an hour?
That's more.
Which I don't.
That's more the problem.
I don't.
Yeah, I never do.
Yeah. So to have it just in a system is the future. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. And then so I would love, obviously I'm here with Presidio, so I would love to go in and show some examples of what that looks like so people can see. The great thing about this technology is, I've only been with Presidio for about a month, and I was able to use it the first day I started. So that was a huge value add for me. And so I just want to sort of show what it looks like. And I think in itself, just looking at the solution sort of proves all the points that we discussed, which is that it's not complex. Anyone within such a short ramp up time, I don't even know that there really is a ramp up time, can use a solution and get valuable data. So do you have the platform available, or should I share my screen?
I think you should probably share.
Okay. Yeah. Let me pull up my account. Okay, perfect. Let's make sure I'm logged in. All right, so share my screen. Okay, so this is Presidio. This is our platform. And this is essentially the minute you log in, this is what you're going to see. And we've set it up so that you have the option to choose from pre-selected prompts that are sort of common questions we've seen talking to clients, prospects, of what they'd like to see. So we have categories that are sort of the most popular with some preset prompts to test it out. So this data is all just test data that we have within our platform, but this is essentially what it would look like once it's integrated with your own systems. We do have different types of charts, how you can pull the data. We have prompt tips. So if you want to use the ask functionality, it's just giving you tips on how to pose your question so that the tool can get you the answer you're actually looking for. So we'll start with let's start with talent acquisition. So simple prompt: how many top performing individuals were recruited in North America since 2020? And you just click on the prompt, and within a couple seconds, it will deliver your answer. And so you have the data here, and you can also see the sources where the data was pulled. You can save the data to a collection. So if you have a collection already, you can just add it to some existing file you have, so you can always access it at any time you want, or you can start a new one and name it, and there. You can copy it to a clipboard. So if you get that question from your boss that asks this, you can literally just copy that question and Slack them an answer.
So Kim, talk about you said you can see what sources it was pulled from. So what are sources it could be pulled from?
So we essentially, Presidio can integrate with essentially anything. It's your HR technology that you already have in place. So like right here, you'll see Workday and Performance. And so that's just an example, but it's essentially whatever tools you're currently using to sort of separately pull your data. We integrate with that. And that's where all of your HR, all of the questions you ask, that's where we're pulling from. So the data has to be there. It has to exist in your systems for us to be able to pull it out and analyze it. But there's not been anything I've seen that we haven't been able to integrate with to pull data.
Common things would be like your LMS, your ATS, your Workday, or your what's the 365, or even Salesforce, right? I mean, anything that has an API connection, you can pull into this and integrate that data instantly by asking a question.
Yeah, exactly. And again, some newer functionality that we've recently added is the ability so you can download it to a PNG, CSV. You can download the data, you can share it, and all of this is just accessible literally within seconds. But then even down here, if you wanted to ask your own questions, you have that ability too. And it's within your own data. So it's whatever you're pulling from. And so you could say, what is our turnover? And just treat that ask functionality like any question you'd like to ask, and it will pull the data. I customized the question, so now it's taking a little longer. And then you can learn a little bit more and see how we calculated the data, where it's pulling from, and get a little bit more information there. And again, save to a collection, copy to clipboard. You have all these options. That's pretty much it. It's that simple. There's not really much else you need to see, because that's it. You ask questions, you get responses, you get data feedback. So that is what the platform looks like. Really easy to use. And if anyone would like to access the platform, we do have a sandbox that literally looks just like this, that you can go in and test out and type in with our preset data, which I'll share links to. Share. All right. So now that that's out of the way, my favorite part, showing our solution. Any closing thoughts from you, really looking at what you see 2024 looking like for the HR world? For you, Larry, what do you have going on the rest of this year?
Yeah, well, what I'm working on is, talking about the book and helping people understand how to really make long-term transformation change in their organization, but also talking about what is now, I think, AI augmented leadership. How do we teach our leaders to be more empathic leaders, but use generative AI as tools to make them better and faster and more communicative and more data-based? So that human-centric, but tech-enabled is coming to life in 2024. I think it really is. So we're, people are still struggling with hybrid work and all that, which is fine. But these tools can break a lot of those barriers down. And I think teaching orgs and leaders how to use this as the new tools, how to use this as the new way that you're a better leader, will happen this year.
Yeah, I think when you and I first met and I had started to read your book, and I really love the concept of taking something like technology that can feel cold and emotionless and just something very separate from us, and using it to actually, in a human way, to use that data, use the information you get from technology to make people's lives better, to change organizations. And I love that concept because it removes some of that sort of separation from technology being scary, but literally let's start looking at it like a tool to help us help our organization, help our teams, our departments, revenue. There's so many like components attached to data, to technology that can sort of transform a whole business.
Exactly. This is the year. This is the year to do it, everyone.
Yep.
Get your hand in there.
And then, so if people want to reach out to you, do you have, I know you're on LinkedIn, but is there any
Yeah,
preference?
LinkedIn, or the website for the book is called LarryMcAlisterBook.com. So if you want to order the book there and get some bonus features, that's another place to go.
Perfect. And I'll drop links to all of your things within our notes. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. And I am hopefully we'll have another conversation. I know we have some other ideas and topics that we might want to talk about. I think my job is to simplify a lot of the sort of the talk around technology and helping people sort of think a little bit different around technology. Literally, the conversation we just had today that's my goal, is to say this isn't as scary as it seems, and huge value add and can make your lives better. So that's more conversations in the future to help people see that.
Great. Thank you, Kim, for inviting me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.